All right, Representative Tom Massie might call it candor, but his actions last time, almost stopping or certainly delaying the last stimulus package, didn't win him any support at the White House. The president said he was grandstanding, that maybe he should be primaried. Others on both sides of the aisle had even nastier things to say, but he said he's sticking to his guns now, that this is just more spending on top of more spending, talking about $250 billion in addition to this small business loan commitment that is really cool, the Paycheck Protection Program. Lindsey Graham joins me right now in South Carolina. What he makes of what Massie is trying to do. Senator, good to have you. What do you think? He's saying enough already. Cool it.
Who, Massie? Is
Yes.
that who you're talking about? Is that your question? What I think of him?
Yes, I am.
Is that your question? Yeah, well, I wouldn't.
Well, he doesn't want any more money being spent. He says enough. He says enough.
Well, yeah, I get it. He never wants to give a dime to Israel, so we can spend a lot of time talking about him, but I'd rather not. Let me tell you why I think this is a good program, the small business loan, but it's got a major problem. Back here at home, I've heard a lot of criticism and concern about the program. The goal is to keep the employer-employee relationship intact. So what do? You go to a bank, if you can find one, you borrow up to 2.5 times your payroll as of what existed February the 15th. You pay your employees, 75% of the money has to go to pay the payroll, and that keeps the company intact, so when the economy opens up, you're good to go. Count me in for that, but here's what's not working. The banks are hard to access here in South Carolina. You have to have a pre-existing relationship, so there's not enough banks. It's too bureaucratic, but we can fix that. The big problem with this program is the unemployment program is competing with a loan program. Here's what happens. If you own a restaurant in South Carolina, you pay employees $17 an hour. Well, here's your dilemma. You're paying them $17 an hour to stay on your payroll. The South Carolina unemployment system's paying them $23 to leave your payroll. So we got very generous unemployment benefits that exceed people's wages, and it's hard for the small business to keep their employees on the payroll because the state of South Carolina is offering them $23 not to be on your payroll. If we don't fix that, we're never going to get this right.
You know, I wonder when you quote stimulus and generous measures for those out of work, if you caught today, Senator, that Governor Cuomo of New York wants to add to the unemployment checks that people are getting in New York by another $600 on top of the $600 that they're getting through the federal government. So he says that the federal government will reimburse him. But what do you think of that?
Here's what I think. I believe that this is an entrepreneurial nation and people like to work, but they're going to make the decision best for their family. My goal is if you get laid off and you can't go to work, no fault of your own, and nobody will offer you a job, that we make you whole. That if you were making $15 an hour, that's $600 a week, I want you to be made whole. The maximum unemployment benefit per week in South Carolina is $326. I'm willing to make up the difference, but what we've done is we've added $600 on top of $326, so now you're making $23 an hour. So the problem is if you're Walmart and Amazon, Neil, you know this better than I do, and you're trying to plus up your workforce, the state of South Carolina, Texas is $28 an hour. We made it hard for people to find new workers because you're paying people more not to work. I'm for making people whole, but I'm not for paying them more not to work than they were making at their job.
All right. Well, I have you, Senator. There's a big kerfuffle between the World Health Organization and the president. The president is concerned about what the WHO knew and when it knew it. And I'm wondering whether, as he has talked about, maybe taking funding away from them because they were hiding figures on China. That's the allegation, and the severity of the growth of the virus in China. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, the Congress appropriates money. We've got money in the pipeline for the WHO. We need an effective WHO, but I'm not going to fund the WHO any longer as long as the current director is in place. He must resign. I'm going to be Dr. No when it comes to funding the WHO. It is the account that I'm in charge of. I just signed a letter today with 60 members of Congress, Republican and Democrats, complaining about the WHO. They said on January the 10th, it's okay to travel to China when they should have known better. On January the 14th, they said there was no evidence of human transmission of the virus within China. They should have known better. In 2015, they completely botched the Ebola virus problem in West Africa. So the current regime is not a good investment. No more money for the WHO until they get new leadership and reform the way they do business.
All right, Senator, we'll see what they say and what they do, because they're fighting fire with fire. We'll have an update on that a little bit later. Senator Lindsey Graham, thank you very, very much.